Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to the channel. And so, Buddy Greg is letting me do my deck tech on it, and this is the deck that I actually used on Saturday during our uh, pre-release tournament. And I chose to use the androids. First time ever actually getting the chance to use the androids. I didn't actually even get any play testing prior to using the androids, but overall, I split the prize with Buddy Tehran, and he just did his deck tech a moment ago. Um, he was using the Goku Super Saiyan 3, and so we can go right into it. I ran four of the Dr. Gero, uh, Evil's Inventor. So basically, nice easy one drop, 0 5,000 combo cost. Still very low attack, so I really never actually attacked with him. I mean, the only situation you would obviously ever attack is if you're going for game and you know the next turn you're obviously losing. But you know, it's kind of one of those things. If your opponent blocks out your whole attack with like a negate or so on your bigger creature, then obviously you're gonna go with something else if you've got enough cards to combo with and enough energy that are open to combo with. Basically, he allows you to look at the top three cards of your deck and choose up to one android and add it to your hand. The funny thing about him is, although the terrible creator Android 20 does not allow you to get him because he's obviously a scientist, that one drop actually allows you to get the two drop Terrible Creator Android 20 because it's noted as an Android. Um, Basically, search your deck for any one of your androids that you feel like you need, other than the with the android in its card name. So obviously it's 17 and 18. I didn't play the 16 in this deck. I know that some folks are like, well, I mean, it's good in certain situations as far as playing the 16 over the trunks as the super combo, which ta-da, found out about that a little bit late in the tournament. So found out that I was actually kind of playing a little bit of an illegal deck because I did not know that the old cards that are zero drop combos, the free combos, are now actually they're called super combos as of the errata on 9 March. So I ended up having to take those out in the third round. We didn't find out. I didn't really win matches like that anyhow, but a lot of the times I was just using what I had in my deck to pretty much, other than the true super combos, to whittle them down, which you'll see why it was easy to whittle them down. Most decks are running pretty much the same thing as far as what I've got here between the androids, because you end up running the cell combo anyways. So cell chain pretty much makes it to where their hand dwindles down. You got all these 0 5,000 combo cards, and obviously, you can end up winning the game that way if they're tapped out. So went on to the new androids because basically the new androids are crit, and they also have the ability to, once per turn during your turn, if an opponent's battle card with an energy cost of 4 or more has been placed in the drop area from anywhere, uh, one of your skill, using one of your skills, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards with an energy cost of 3 or less and KO that card. That's pretty good with this one when you do your cell chain and then you still have this on the field, so you could just pretty much blow up one of their little 3 drops. You got four of the 17. Again, crit, which is just really good in this game because overall you're just trying to take their life to where they're not getting it in their hand, rather they're having to put it in their graveyard or their drop area. This guy, obviously, once again, once per turn, pay 1 green. During that turn, if an opponent's battle card with an energy cost of 3 or less has been placed in the drop area from any area by one of your skills, choose up to one Android 18 with an energy cost of 3 or less in your hand and play it. Pretty sweet because you get to play your 3 drop for free, or not for free, but for one, which is really good. Um, I did still run a couple of the old Androids just because being able to get them out and use the effects on them are pretty decent. With the old Android, obviously once per turn, auto. When this card attacks, you may place one card from your hand into the drop area. If you do, choose up to one Android 18 in your battle area and switch it to active mode. Pretty decent if you want to get that extra attack in and you know you got like a dead card in your hand. Whereas like in that tournament, there were so many times where I actually won games with all of my cell chain combo being in my energy area because like it was horrible. Um, Basically, a lot of the games that I won off just the androids themselves and not the cell chain and or cell himself. Um, Ran two of the twin sister android 18s. Once per turn, when this card attacks, you may place one card from your hand in the drop area. If you do, so choose up to one android 17 in your battle area and switch it to active mode. Again, that extra attack, pretty good. Uh, Obviously, like I was saying, I do run the cell chain combo. So I run four of the three drop cells. Basically, when Union absorb 117, and then you get a five drop, which I ran four of the evil life form cell. Basically, pops a card and lets you draw a card. Um, and then, of course, double strike, which is pretty darn good anyhow. Uh, when you use Union Absorb, basically you get your seven drop cell, and everybody should know by now what the seven drop cell does. When you evolve this, when you play this card, if your leader card is an android, which obviously there's still androids, your opponent must choose cards in their hand and pretty much put them down to three. Hand goes down to three ultimately. So you got a 30,000 double striker coming at you, and they have three cards in hand. So they better have saved all of their free combos, or their supposed now it's super combos. Again, that was a crappy situation that I ended up finding out in the third round because the judge that was actually playing the event, he said, hey, I noticed that you have these cards, and he's like, do you have you can't play both of them? And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, that's a super combo. I was like, no, it's not. It doesn't say it on the card. He was like, well, it's got errated. So he looked it up. I ended up losing game one because of it. I took all of the extra super combos out. So basically, I took out the 16s to keep the four trunks protector of children in. So obviously, free combo, draw a card, 10,000, which basically a lot of the times, just with this against him, after the fact that I lost game one and took out all those other combo cards, um, basically games two and three I ended up winning. And it was pretty sick because I was like, it is what it is. I'll take out the cards. We'll play as with me having an 11 card sideboard, and I'll just re up the deck to where it only has the the trunks as the combo. And so I ended up winning, which was pretty decent. It still made me kind of happy. Buddy of mine, Wayne, and he was definitely not happy about it, but he definitely didn't want to give me a match loss, and so it was really cool of him to let me keep playing on. Um, I run four of the full power energy. Basically, negate attack. Whenever you negate the attack, then choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards with an energy cost of one or less and KO that card. A lot of times, I would, even late game, if my opponent was coming at me with the Kaba, I would negate the attack of, or either the Kaba or a big card, negate it before they even attack with their Kaba, and then just end up destroying the Kaba. And then also the one drop hand that allows you to draw a card whenever you combo with it and give a red card or a red leader card the plus 5,000, which is pretty good. Basically, I run her in my Goku deck. Basically, this will kill that as well. So few targets, but it's overall it's just a negate attack. And for me, in all of my decks, I run the negate attacks because I just feel like being able to negate that big attack that goes for game ends up winning you the game anyhow the next turn. So surprise card that I ran, nobody was really um, nobody saw this coming. I run four of the no opening Son Goku because my one thing is I want to try to get these guys down to 6 life as soon as possible, because a lot of times if your opponent stalls you out, you really can't win with this deck that good, that well. You end up having to aggro them out just a little bit. So what I did was I used the no opening Son Goku. A lot of the times I could end up awakening on maybe turn two or three because of it. Even if they attack me once, uh, like let's say I'm on the play, they're on the draw, they attack me once, basically cool, that's fine. I attack them, I activate that, I awaken, I attack again, and so basically it's so broken by that point because you're awakened, they're not, and you can control them and how they're awakened. And a lot of times I can win games like that. The other thing that helped me awaken was two of the Increasing Evil Mass Sands. Again, it's one of those overwhelm cards, and you can only overwhelm once per turn. But whenever you overwhelm with this guy, he's an overwhelm 4. So you got to have at least 4 cards in your drop area before you can overwhelm with him. You pay 1 energy, and then auto, whenever you play this card using overwhelm, choose 1 card in your life and add it to your hand. If you do so, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards with an energy cost of 5 or less and send it to the warp area, which is pretty good because, again, it's removal, and removal is pretty good in this, in this format right now, with the hyper aggressive decks that come out with the Gohans or so. Mass Saiyan, 2 of them. That's my last 2 cards that were in the actual main board. Mass Saiyan, the Mysterious Warrior, again, overwhelm 5, 1 energy, double strike, and then when you play this card with Overwhelm, choose any number of opponent's battle cards without blocker. So remember, that's the biggest thing about this guy is without blocker, for which the total cost adds up to 5 or less, and then send it to the warp area. So again, they're not going into the drop area, they're going into the warp area, which is really good because if they have their own Overwhelm cards, you're basically keeping them from being able to use those guys for their overwhelm, which a lot of players here in our actual LDS, they actually use a lot of the overwhelm cards just as well. That's the main board. Again, I had to take out stuff for the side. Basically, I had 4 extra slots. I didn't want to put any extra cards in there because I wanted to basically show you all that I did take out the 4 cards as the super combos and ended up leaving it that way for the rest of the tournament. For my sideboard, 3 cards, Expanding Energy, Android 17. He was really, really good against the Broly matchup. The Broly matchup is super tough because they end up dwindling your hand down before you can now end up cell chaining them and everything. But if you're able to get ahead of them, and or comes down like in late game, you end up winning that match. And the same thing goes with the Android and Cell matchup. If you're able to keep him on board, swing once, and you can get ahead. Again, he's got double strike. So, if you're down on cards, he ends up bringing you back up to 4 cards in your hand. Ran 3 of those. 2 King Vegeta surprise attack. Basically, it's one of those things where you can surprise your opponent. You give your card revenge and plus 10,000 for 1 green, which is really good. Almost kind of its own negate attack in a way, depending upon how much power their creature has before they attack. For mirror, I never really did actually get the stamps to side the mirrors in, just as well as the 16s, the blocker 16s. I ended up kind of saying, the blockers didn't, with the revenge, obviously. Blocker revenge, and then auto whenever this card KOs your opponent's battle card, switch this card to active mode, which is the really good part about this Android 16 is it allows you to basically Jiren, attack a card, boom, and then come back. Actually, not Jiren. I would say Topo. Topo's a much more better example of this card. So kind of Topo it, but it's Topo with blocker and revenge. Obviously, Topo is a pretty good card because it's a negate for 2. Whenever your opponent's or your leader is 15,000 or more. So pretty good. The mirrors, I originally had it in the main board, but I didn't have the Mass and stuff in there. But I ended up putting the removal in there because I thought it was much more needed than the mirrors. And if it was really bad because things had barrier like the apes, then I would end up putting the mirrors in so I can just make sure that my opponents discard their hands. So that was the deck. I appreciate your time. Please let us know any comments, rate, subscribe, and let me know what I can do to make this deck better. Obviously, keep your critiques very professional because our LGS is our LGS. I've been playing this for maybe about a month and a half, and I'm still trying to get used to it. I went strong into buying the cards that I thought were good, and so again, I appreciate your time. Otherwise, take care. Deuce, deuce.
It does, but you want to protect your. It's just like